Greetings, family. Welcome to another of our Ghana Focus series. As you can see, I've got my special guest in the house today, and we're looking forward to another really interesting discussion. If you are not already a subscriber to the channel, please do subscribe. We put out videos regularly, and you will get alerts when a video comes online. Well, family, there's always so much happening in Ghana, and we like to hear what the Ghana's position is regarding developments on the continent. And one of the developments we are talking about right now that's happening on the continent is South Africa's decision to take Israel to the United Nations High Court. They are claiming that Israel's campaign in Gaza amounts to genocide. Israel is hotly disputing that claim and defending itself, and saying that the allegations of genocide are unfounded. So what do we think Africa's position ought to be regarding South Africa's decision to take Israel to the United Nations High Court? Is this a decision that the rest of Africa ought to be supporting and pursuing, or not? I'm going to be going over to my guests to get their opinion as to what position they feel Ghana ought to be taking in relation to this case. We have special guest Kwame Osei, journalist, broadcaster, writer, social commentator, and we also have Ras Nkrabia, Deputy CEO, Hempfair Agri-Ghana Limited, and also the mobilizing director of Food Sovereignty Ghana, social and political activist. First of all, let's go over to Ras Nkrabia. Ras Nkrabia, I put the question to you. What do you think Ghana's position ought to be in relation to this case that South Africa is bringing against Israel?
Well, the first thing I would like to say is that Ghana should take a moral position, and the moral position should be justice must prevail. The second thing is that we have had the ambassador of Israel, who has been here since this whole issue started. And she was one of the main person, our ambassador here in Ghana, or the only ambassador here in Ghana who was pushing for the war to continue. So you can see clearly she's a warmonger. And how can the government of Ghana allow someone to be here in Ghana pushing for the murder of all these children in Palestine, in Gaza, at this very moment, when we know that Ghana represents justice and peace? Kwame Nkrumah have already set a foundation where equal rights and justice is concerned. As a matter of fact, he was on his journey for peace when they overthrew him. So we have a long legacy of fighting for justice and peace. The government of Ghana should immediately sack the ambassador from Ghana, kick her out of Ghana one time, to show your solidarity to what is happening in the Hague at this moment. And two, is to put an end, is to contribute to an end to the murder, the constant bombing of civilians and children and old women in Palestine. The government should call for a national day of peace for all the churches and all the religious body to come out and call for a ceasefire now. This is what I think the president should be doing at this very moment. Even though we know that the president's position is that he's standing with Israel. So what I would like to also say is that the Muslim community, who has a moral duty to stand up for truth, justice, and rights, should to stop their vote from going to the NPP in this election that is coming up, if the government does not sack this ambassador and take a moral stand for a ceasefire now. because that reaction or position that the president is having of saying he's standing with Israel is definitely counterproductive to what Ghana stands for over the years and over the generations. That is basically my position on it.
Thank you very much. I've read today almost 25,000 Palestinian children have been killed since this war started. They have been the victims of the bombings that Israel has been raining on Palestine. Let's go over to Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame, almost 25,000 children, and that's probably an underestimate, that have been killed as a result of this war so far. Racine Krabia, as you have heard, feels that Ghana needs to stand on its principles of justice, its moral principles, and kick the Israeli ambassador out of Ghana, who has been described as a warmonger. What is your position on this, Brother Kwame?
My position on this, and greetings to the family, greetings to the listeners, is that there's a kind of saying that do fiasem, that literally means mind your own business. And I think that as Africans, you know, we should be minding our own business in this conflict. This conflict didn't start on October 7th, when Hamas killed those Israeli people, you know, on that day on October 7th. This has been going on for 75 years, since the formation of the State of Israel in 1948. So is it just now that South Africa is saying, you know, take him to court? What about all those 75 years when they were oppressing the Palestinians? Yeah, so have we just realized it, that something's going on in the so-called Middle East? And also, if we were wanting to have empathy as Africans, why don't we show empathy for the Africans in Palestine? Yeah, because believe it or not, there's African people who look like you and me and Racine Krabia that live in Palestine and have been there for more than 100 years. In actual fact, if you go back even 100 years, right, the king and queen of Palestine were black, right? They're being treated by the Palestinians, that the ones they want to help and cry for, those Arab Palestinians are systematically oppressing African Palestinians in Palestine. Yeah, and also on the other hand, you have Africans in Israel being systematically oppressed as well. So my concern is not for Israelis or for Palestinians, but for African people who have been caught up in the middle of that conflict. Yeah, and Nkrumah said, and this is during, even during the so-called Cold War, Nkrumah said we neither look east or west, look inwards. So as African people, as Ghanaians, we need to look within ourselves, yeah, and use this opportunity as a way to unite and come together so we can insulate ourselves from any consequence that will come out of the war. So for example, the Russia-Ukraine war that's going on right now has been going on for nearly 2 years. At one point, Africa sent a delegation to go to Ukraine and go to Moscow to say stop the war because it's hampering exports of grain. Now, if we were making our own grain, we wouldn't need to be importing grain from Russia and Ukraine, so that there's a war, we'll be affected by it. We should take the opportunity to do for ourselves. Yeah. So if we produce our own grain, it wouldn't matter what Russia and Ukraine are doing, because it doesn't matter, because we are looking after ourselves. We are doing for ourselves. Same with Israel, Ukraine, Israel and Hamas. If there comes to be some food shortage or some power shortage, right? If we were looking inward at ourselves, we could insulate that, yeah, by generating our own power, i.e. solar energy or wind, or even, cassava. You can use cassava leaves, right, to generate electricity. I saw a YouTube video of one African brother using cassava leaf to generate electricity. So if we look inwards, we could use that technology that we have to create our own, energy and our own, food. That means that when these wars come, these external factors come, we wouldn't be affected by it. That's my concern. But also on another picture, let's look at this. He says this 25,000 women and children have died, yeah, in Palestine, yeah, since October 7th, yeah.
It's children.
Okay, let's flip it on the other way. Look at DR Congo. Look at this, 8 million African women and children, many have died in that war. We're not saying anything about that. Where's our sympathy for our people in DR Congo? More than 6.5 million African women, men, and children have been displaced from their land in DR Congo. Right now in DR Congo, right, there's 19-year-old African girls with 2-year-old baby on their back, digging for cobalt in the mines in Katanga province and Southeast Congo. We're not worried about that. There's children, even right now, my sister, as we're having this program, right? Children as young as 8 and 9, digging with their bare hands in mines just to give us mobile phone, laptop, Apple Mac, etc. And we don't say anything about that. And you want to have sympathy for Arabs because of the Israelis are bombing them. What about the bombing in DR Congo? What about the bombing in Sudan? What about the bombing in Somalia? Aren't we as Ghanaians and Africans concerned about that? Look at this issue with the Arabs, and let's even make it a wide issue with the Arabs. And this is why I don't support us intervening with what's going on in Palestine, because these people are Arabs. Yeah, Palestinian people are Arabs. Look at what Arabs do to African people in North Africa. Even just the other day, Tunisia, right? There was violence against African people in Tunisia because the president of Tunisia was saying that Africans want to take over Tunisia, as if Africa didn't belong to, as if Tunisia didn't belong to us in the first place. And for listeners that don't know, the whole of North Africa was black. Look at you and I, there are black people. There are no Arabs in what is called North Africa. Arabs only came, or rather they invaded that land in 640 AD and brought their Islam with them. Yeah? And they've occupied, so you talk about Palestine being occupied, but you forget that North Africa is occupied. Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya, Egypt. You don't think it's occupied land? We've been kicked out of those lands. Right now in Libya, there is enslavement of people that look like you and I. Go to Libya, places like Benghazi and Tripoli in Libya. We've been sold like cattle, slaves in Libya. The Arab call you and I Abid. That means slave. So they didn't look at us as humans, they look at us as slaves. Yeah? So why should I have sympathy for Arab people in Palestine when their cousins are giving our people hellfire in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Libya, in Egypt? Even the other day, this is how much they hate us, right? Not Idris Elba. Denzel Washington is doing a film about Hannibal. Yeah, and Hannibal was a black man. But the Arabs say that we are stealing their history. And they've complained to Netflix, right, that they should not allow Denzel Washington to play Hannibal because it is an abomination in their eyes that a black man should play their great hero. When if you look at history, Hannibal was a black man, he wasn't an Arab. So this is how they have disdain for us as a people, black people, African people. Yeah, and they're occupying our land and they're approaching south. Look what they're doing in Sudan. The attacks in Sudan are being sponsored by the likes of Qatar and Arab states. Yeah, they're supporting the Khartoum government to wipe out the Africans in South Sudan. And you want me as African to have sympathy with Palestine? No, that can't happen, beloved. Cannot happen. We've got to look after ourselves. We've got to look inward. As John Henrik Clark says, black people, you got no friends. Yeah, we need to have empathy and sympathy with ourselves before we have empathy and sympathy with other people. As the saying goes, charity begins at home. We've got to look at our home first, before we look after anyone else. So for me, I think this whole sympathy and empathy for Palestine, because it's not about Africans in Palestine, it's about the Arabs who are being slaughtered by the Israelis. That's where the sympathy is going. And as African white, I don't find that palatable because, like I said, we are catching hellfire in Arab lands, in Jordan, in Lebanon. Look at how Ethiopian sisters are being treated as domestic servants in Jordan and Kuwait. The whole Arab world, so-called, don't like African people. So we have no business meddling in their affair. Our business should be the Africans in Palestine and Israel and their welfare, and more importantly, our empathy and sympathy should be towards our sisters and brothers in DR Congo who have been murdered, yeah, by everyone, by the Arabs, by the Israelis, by the Europeans, by everyone. Yeah, and then you talk about genocide in Palestine. What about genocide in DR Congo? Right now, like I said, there's a genocide going on DR Congo, and we don't care about it. We don't know about it, and we want to have sympathy with somebody else. When there's a genocide going on next door, to South Africa, I'm surprised South Africa hasn't concerned themselves about what's going on in Congo, but yet they want to concern themselves about something that is in Palestine. So that tells me where the mindset of the elite of South Africa is at, whereby you have no empathy and sympathy for your own people, particularly in somewhere like DR Congo, but you want to have empathy and sympathy with people that don't look like you, and more importantly, they hate you. So this whole thing, I don't say don't go to a court, but like I said, why don't we look after our internal affairs first before we look about somebody else's affairs?
Oh, thank you, Brother Kwame, Brother Rasen Krabia. Powerful position there from Brother Kwame. We ought to look after our own affairs first. We have no friends. No one else is going to look after our interests. Are we being distracted by, this war that is just covering the media 24/7 and ignoring the bigger genocide that's happening in the Congo, that's happening in Sudan and other parts of Africa? Should that be where we are placing our priority? We heard from you earlier, Ghana ought to be standing on its principles of justice, etc., and freedom, and it should be standing against apartheid. But should that be at the expense of overlooking what's going on in other parts of the continent, where our own people are the victims at the hands of the very same nation of people? We're asking the entire nation to come out and pray for. Why are we not asking the nation to pray for Sudan, Ethiopia, Congo, for the Blacks, Africans in Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, and everywhere else where we are being abused in the world, around the world? Rasen Krabia, let me ask you to come back on this, please.
All right, the first thing I would like to say is that the nationalist position in the world will not get us anywhere. And the reason why I'm saying that is that we are now dealing with geopolitics, where there are multiple countries who are vying for positions in the world. If we go back and remember how we won the struggles in South Africa, it was with the blood, sweat, tears, and finances of the Cubans. Cubans are not Africans. They are not black people, right? Che Guevara from Bolivia is not an African.
I disagree.
He gave his life fighting for the freedom of Southern Africa. During the apartheid region, the Palestinians, mainly from Yasser Arafat, ensured that a budget of the liberation struggle in Palestine was given to the liberation struggle in South Africa towards that liberation. That is one. Secondly, is that the same people that are in the Congo, they are Israelis, right? And what we don't recognize is that the art of war says that you must always keep your focus on the head of the source that is creating the greatest military problem for you, which is the United States and Israel. Israel is a military base for the United States, right? Right now, the defeat of the United States and Israel is on its way. So this is not a time to take sectarian position on this issue, because what you will do is that you will weaken the struggle. The struggle is an international one. It's not a national one. It's a global struggle. And it is ironic that it is just this time people are saying now that, oh, what about us? Why don't we take care of ourselves? Where were we all along when the Congo was going through all of those atrocities? Where were we all along with all those African countries? Even right now in Israel, right? There are thousands of black people there dying. And the same black people who are today calling and saying that we must mind our own business. They're not giving no attention the brother from I think he's from Tanzania or Kenya, who lost his life when Hamas attacked Israel. We are not even talking about those two brothers, right? So I think it's just a way of us copping out of facing the struggle. What you need from the revolution, I mean, from the black people of the world, is to do exactly what Hamas have done: sacrifice. You need to sacrifice your life and your blood for the Congo. And we are not seeing that. We hear a lot of stuff. We heard someone like Umar Johnson get up and said, "Oh, I'm going to focus on Africa and focus on the African business and leave because it's not our business." Israel and Palestine is a part of Africa. Israel and Palestine, the war that is going on there is headed by the United States of America and Israel, which is one of the same. So whatever destruction that comes up on Israel and Palestine, it will alleviate a lot of the problems in Africa and the world, because they are the common enemy of the oppressed people of the world. So we're looking at a broader geopolitical battle and not just a national battle. So until we get to that point, we'll forever doing firefighting all over the place, and the two main forces of the world will be there constantly doing what they are doing. This is a time when the United States is about to fall. This is a time when Israel certainly is going down. All the African countries should rally to ensure that the United States and Israel go all the way down, total destruction. The firefighting here and there in these different parts of Africa where we're having these problems, they are all initiated by the United States and Israel, right? We know the position of Israel concerning Africans. We will be next after Palestine, and they made it very, very, very clear. So if we have an opportunity right now to quicken the demise of the United States and Israel, that should be our focus and not just a national one, because we have a global struggle. And as I said before, the Cuban revolutionaries have shown that international solidarity is the way to go.
Two very powerful arguments, family. I welcome your views, comments, and opinions in the chat underneath this video. Should we be adopting a global internationalist perspective on this issue and be working with other countries around the world to crush the head of the devil, or should we be focusing on the challenges and the genocide that's happening in some of the countries in Africa right now, and be putting our energies into exposing, highlighting, and fighting those battles there? We look forward to hearing your views, thoughts, and opinions on the Ghana Focus. Tell us what you think Ghana, the government of Ghana, and the other African governments across the continent ought to be doing in relation to this matter right now during these times. Thank you so much. To my guests, thank you so much for joining me. To everyone who's watching and to everyone who shares, thank you all so much. Sister Shanice and guests, out of here for now. Bye for now.